Okay, so today we are going to be talking about how to make $1 million as a government contractor, and I say how to get on base. And so I don't often like to use baseball or sports metaphors, but I am using it today. And so I'll explain baseball to you as we go along. Not like I'm some sort of great baseball expert here, but getting on base is pretty straightforward. So we'll talk about that in a second. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. And I want to welcome you to my daily LinkedIn Live, where I teach processes and procedures for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner in the federal market, doing a lot of roles like you, whether it's running the company, doing business development, doing sales, capture, et cetera. And I spent a lot of time as a small business owner in this space. And then since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow the process and we go from A to Z, we're going to have predictable results. And that's what you want. And that's why I teach what I teach every day. Every day except for tomorrow when I have a dentist appointment, but almost every day, right? I teach this so that you can have process steps and you can have the answer to how do I do something. A lot of us will tell you what to do. What I try to bring in here as well is the how. And that's what we're going to get to. Do me a favor, though, before we get too far, go ahead and throw your company name into the chat. Let me turn off this scroll bar here. Throw your company name into the chat so buyers and I will remember who you are. Put your core competencies in there. 2 or 3 words that just tell us who you are, what you do. That core competency will begin to sink into our mind. Don't ever feel like you can do it too much, because as often as many of you have been here, and we've been doing this for 150 days basically in a row, there's a lot. We've had hundreds of people into these trainings, and I want to keep learning about your company and what you do, but I also want the others in the community to know who you are. And that reminds me that I want to tell you that I'll be teaching you today the tips I want to teach you, but the chat is your community. We build this community together. And so when you engage in the chat with me and with others, you're building up that community. Feel free to definitely engage with the community. Let people know you're open to connections if you are. And by putting in your core competency, you'll find people who can maybe align with what you're doing and what they need. The last thing is, as I go forward, if I ask you to put something in the chat, go ahead and do that, would you? And let me know that what I'm teaching you today is making sense on all this as we go forward. So let me just get my screen lined up. Make sure I'm not sharing the wrong stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started right now on how to make $1 million as a government contractor. Fun little topic. Many of us struggle within the federal market to make $1 million, certainly to make our first $1 million, right? You might be just getting started out and you're trying to make that first $1 million as a government contractor. You might already be making some money, and millions maybe, but you want to make that first $1 million in a new agency. Say you're at the Department of Education and you want to go over to the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, for example, and you're struggling, or you're trying to figure out, well, how do I make $1 million there when I don't really have any relationships, et cetera? You might be trying to get to your next set of millions. So maybe you're at 3 million, you're trying to get 5 million, or you're at 5 million, you're trying to get to 10 million. That's kind of the same thing, right? For those of you who are not making $1 million, getting to $1 million is that goal. And sometimes it can be a struggle, right? We need to keep reminding ourselves, how do we succeed? And for others, you might be at 5 million and it's kind of a struggle to get to 10. Right? I had assistants and I had some relationships to get me to 5, but now going to 10 or going into a new agency, it's a newer game. And so I got to figure out what to do, right? You might be in one of those particular situations, but it's not unrealistic for you to expect to build $1 million company or a $10 million company when you have the federal government as your customer, right? They spend billions of dollars. It's not unrealistic to expect to build a company that's going to make $1 million or $10 million. But there is no secret. There's no magic bullet. There is definitely no quick path, right? There's only following a proven process. This is the way. And so if you understand that, put proven process into the chat so that you come along this journey with me today, knowing that we are about following a proven process, not getting rich quick. While you're doing that, I'll let you know in today's training, I'm going to try to cover 3 parts, and it's a lot of information I'm shoving into 25 minutes here. But I'm going to share 3 major process steps that I want you to take, and that will lead you to that $1 million in government contracting. One is to niche down to be seen. The second one is to establish metrics for yourself that measure progress. And then the third one is build strategic relationships that are going to open doors for you. So those three things we're going to cover. And thanks for those of you engaging in chat. That's the last time I'm probably going to look at chat for the rest of it. So I focus on the training, but I will come back and look later. So let's talk about niching down. Niching down, the whole idea of niching down is to not say you sell everything, but to come down and say, hey, this is my focus area. So an example is if you're in software development, well, what stack are you doing software development on? Are you an AWS, Amazon Web Services software development company, Oracle, Microsoft, right? To say you do software development's too broad and you're not niching down. But if you say, hey, we do Oracle software development to somebody in the government, for example, or to a teaming partner, they can instantly think in their mind, oh, you know what, Johnny over here, they do all Oracle development. It's not actually the IT department. It's over here in the finance department is where they procure Oracle services or whatever. They need it because their financial tools are run on Oracle. By knowing, niching down to that, you can get closer to the target buyer that you're trying to reach, right? Or potential teaming partners can see where you can fit into bigger projects they have. They can go, oh, you do ServiceNow. ServiceNow, we have a lot of need for that right here. So let me go ahead and get you there. By niching down, right, you begin to demonstrate your company's subject matter expertise. And what I mean by this is you'll be able to put content out, whether it's engagement on LinkedIn, whether you're posting articles out there, writing white papers, doing videos on YouTube. And none of this is, well, it might seem overwhelming, but it's not a lot of extra work. If you followed a process on how to do marketing and social media, then you would begin to find it's just like everything else, right? It's just a process. But if you create content that's niched down, let's use Oracle and stick with that for a second. Pretty soon you begin to be seen as the Oracle company, the Oracle person, the Oracle. You're seen as that subject matter expert that people know, hey, I'm going to go to Janie here. Janie always puts out Oracle content and I can learn constantly from her. If I'm a government buyer writing requirements or thinking about requirements, I might go in and research her material that's just out on the internet and learn from her and help me shape some of my requirements, right? And so this idea of having a niche lets people be able to see you. And when that buyer has questions who is writing requirements, they might actually come over to you and ask you to come in and talk to them early in the process, right? This idea of shifting left away from the RFP and all the way into the early requirement development. By knowing what you do and putting content out that lets you be visible as the expert in that area, buyers can find you, teammates can find you, and that's a big deal. The other thing about niching down, right? And when you think about how this lends to trying to make $1 million, it's a lot easier to make $1 million when you begin to have experience, past performance in the same spot. Sticking with Oracle, imagine I have a $50,000 Oracle contract here, $150,000, a $500,000 Oracle contract. Pretty soon, all my past performances are all related to Oracle. And when the buyer is looking at me, or when teammates are looking to see what my value is to them and the contracts they're going after, when the buyer looks at us, they go, hey, not only do you appear to be an expert in Oracle, but you have past performance that backs that up. That's social proof, right? Those contracts are proof that you have been, that people have worked with you. Buyers have come and bought your services because you're an expert in a particular area. And if you're in the government space and you keep getting bigger, pretty soon those go into CPARs and there's all sorts of trusted value in there. So these, this ability to niche down is vital to your success in government contracting. I can't say this enough. You have got to look at what you sell and go, have we niched it down? I'm gonna give you one more example, and do me a favor, if you're tracking on this, put niche, N-I-C-H-E, put niche into the chat. Let me know you're tracking on this. But one other example I wanted to use is we've got a customer and a really strong person in the community, and actually I see Rafi, you're right there. She used to say that she does like all things construction. And when she and I met, we were talking about that, and we had these conversations about niching down. And a couple of things resulted in some good activities that she started having. But one of them was this ability to niche down and say, you know what, we're the best of the best at elevators, right? And they also do flooring and painting, not all things construction, not plumbing, not electrical, whatever, right? There's, of course, she could touch on all that stuff, but she niched down. And the minute she niched down, she began to have better conversations with teammates who understood what she did. She was able to begin to focus her team on, hey, go after these type of opportunities because this is where our focus is. This is where I can speak to most, and this is where we can bring past performances. And so go ahead and do that. If you haven't done that, put niche in there. When you niche down, right, they say the niches are in the riches. And when you're thinking about today's topic, how do I make $1 million in government contracting? It comes from niching down your core competency. I have a whole training out there. Gus might drop it in. That's called, it's something about FOMO, right? Fear of missing out. Don't worry about fear of missing out because you niched down being a bad thing. When you think about your ability to get into a customer, if you can prove yourself, then you can begin to expand your offering once you're in. Niching gets you in the door. Okay, so I want to share my screen here. Hold on one second. Just for one slide, it's just got so much information, I'd rather share it. For those of you who have been here a lot, you know that I don't often share my screen. I just like talking, right? I'm a drive at the topic, but let me go ahead and share this. And while I'm sharing it, I want to give you a completely random tip really quick. I wanted to point something out, and I'm not saying this about anybody in the government, but I wanted to point this out as a lesson learned to you, completely unrelated. Do you see the tab here? It says PowerPoint presentation. This is a deck from the Navy, right? Here's another one from the Navy, and it says PowerPoint presentation. Those two are, the way it's laid out, they're poorly named because when we talk about findability, you're not finding it. This is why if you ever hear me talk about capability statement in some of your marketing material, make sure you use the metadata properly. This file name might be correct, right? Here it says NAWC TSD PDF, right? But the title inside the metadata, if you haven't done this, go watch my training on metadata. When you put metadata on, it's part of your marketing and sales activity. It should say up here, surface and undersea warfare programs or something that lend to it. Right here, the third tab, this is a slick sheet for the training service division or whatever they're called, right? But this thing says working with TSD. That's a clear title. It could be prettier, but it's clear, right? Long range acquisition forecast here for 2022. Could be clearer, getting rid of that acronym, but you don't mistake it, right? You go LRAF, whatever. Okay, so let me switch over here really quick and minimize that guy. This is the 7-step process. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this slide because I want to go to the next slide. But when you think about how do you make $1 million, it's a process. I say this over and over again. Government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. Here is the process, right? It's a 7-step approach to doing business in the government. You need to research your customer and your teaming partners, but you need to research that federal agency. I noticed Dave Waltz is on today, right? Go research his organization, understand his center's strategic plans and priorities. That's research, right? Seeking first to understand the buyer before having them understand you or before selling to them. Then you want to build a targeted list of people you're going to call. Outreach is about actually reaching out and starting that brand new relationship. And when you do, you will have established strategic relationships that lead to opportunities that enable you to write proposals and win sales. That's how easy it is. It takes work, but the process doesn't have to be complicated. The process doesn't have to be hard. The work is just a little bit of effort. Okay, so let's come in here really quick. This is the slide I want to go through. One slide, but just going through that same thing. In order to have success, you need to establish metrics to measure your progress. Anything we do, there's a line, and I was just talking with a bunch of Army people, but we talk about what gets measured gets done, right? Somebody said what gets measured gets improved. I actually just say what gets measured gets done. And so you want to make sure you're establishing measurements for yourself so that when you're measuring yourself, that's the activity you're doing. Make sure you're measuring the right activity, not just any activity. And I'm going to give you my suggestion of what the right activity is. So as you can see here, probably proper and well thought out metrics are going to ensure that you reach your goals. I want you to know your numbers. And so let's begin to walk it back. I got about 10, 12 minutes to go through this. So you saw the 7-step process. I'm going to reverse engineer this process and talk about the numbers on how do you get $1 million, right? If you're going to get $1 million, what does it take for targeting, right? What's the metric you put on research? And so we're going to begin with sales by saying our goal is $1 million, right? That's today's training. How do I make $1 million? Let's talk about a couple of assumptions. First thing I'm saying is that goal is for calendar year 2023. And there's two ways I could measure that for January to December 2023. That's what that is. There's two ways I can look at it. At the end of 2023, I can look at my bank account and go, hey, there was $1 million that came in. That's what I call recognized revenue, right? CPAs or whatever can call it anything they want that's official, but I say it's recognized. I see it. I got the money from the from the customer, right? That's one way of looking at it. The other way, which is totally acceptable to me, is what I call a run rate, meaning maybe I don't have a total $1 million by the end of calendar year 2023 in my bank account, but by December 2023, I am making $100,000 a month, receivables, money coming in from my customers. Well, that means I'm a $1.2 million company, a run rate, if you follow that number, right? And so it's just important to know what your number is for calendar year 2023. Now, I'm using some assumptions, and this is important because it leads to all the other numbers. First assumption is that anybody in my company who's going to be billable to the customer is going to be billed at a $100 an hour rate. Whatever rate you have, put it down, right? You go ahead and replace this number with yours. And what I recommend you do is just double the hourly rate, $100 an hour, double that rate, and you get roughly the amount of money that comes in every year revenue. So $100 an hour rate equals $200,000 a year in revenue. Straightforward, right? And if I want to achieve $1 million, that means I need 5 FTEs, 5 full-time equivalents. I need 5 people billing out with the customers. The reason we call it, by the way, full-time equivalent is because I could have 10 people billing 20 hours a week, and that's still 5 FTEs, if you will, right? And so all it basically means is 200 hours a week. I know I'm getting too fancy with the numbers here, but just 40 hours a week times 5 people equals 200. And so know your numbers here. $100 an hour equals 200,000. That means I need 5 people. In order for me to get $1 million, I have just told myself that all I need is 5 people in my company billing out, and I will get that $5 million, right? And I, of course, I'm using basic, easy math, but these are really the same type of numbers I would use in my company. So the last assumption in sales is that, and I make conservative assumptions to make sure I can achieve progress. I say that when I'm trying to get 5 FTEs, I don't go, wow, if I could get one contract with 5 FTEs. No, that's too easy, right? It's not conservative enough. It doesn't protect me from missing that. So instead I say I can only have 1 FTE per contract. So I need 5 contract wins, right? And they could be subcontracts. They could be prime contracts. They could be getting on an existing contract and filling some need a prime contractor might have. It doesn't matter how I get it. By the end of the year, what I'm planning for is that I need to win 5 times. I need 5 times where somebody says, yes, I'll give you money for you guys to come work with us, right? So it could be the government, it could be a large prime, a small prime, and I'm getting in there. So I need, that number makes it really conservative for me. Hopefully I'll get 1 contract, 5 people, and life is great. So the next one is proposals, right? If I want $1 million, then what I'm saying is I need $5 million in proposal dollars going out. I'm bidding on $5 million a year. And again, I'm really conservative with my numbers. Feel free to put whatever actual numbers you want in there. But I say very conservatively, I'm going to win 1 out of 5. 1 out of 5 opportunities. And that means if I want $1 million, 1 out of 5 is 5 million. Make sense? So that's a 20% win rate, or 1 out of 5 proposals that go out will win. This bullet here that says don't swing for the fences. If you're trying to put out a proposal for 5 million, don't submit 1 proposal for 5 million. Just get on base. And let's go back to baseball for a second. Baseball has basically 4 bases, 3 bases and a home plate, right? So when the batter hits, sometimes we call it swinging for the fences. You're trying to get that ball over the fences, way out in the field, center field if you're lucky, right? Way out in center field, over the fences. It's a home run. There's no point in trying for that, because if you miss, it's up in the air and it comes right down in somebody's hand and you lost. It's better to just consistently get on base. And what I mean as it relates to this is, don't try to get a $5 million win. Try to get a whole bunch of $200,000 wins, right? $200,000 wins, 5 of them will lead to $1 million. And it's a lot more measurable. As you are able to play at a bigger game, your singles, and follow me here, your singles are getting on base could be $1 million, right? For Booz Allen and Boeing, they're getting on base, in my opinion, should be $10 million wins. You know, going for $1 billion contract for them is a home run. But getting, $10 million wins, even $50 million wins, those to me are just getting on base for $1 billion company. So going with these numbers, how many proposals do I need going out? I need 25 proposals in a year going out, and forget about 2 proposals per month for 1 second. The way I came up with 25 proposals in a year is I said I can only win one contract, one FTE per contract. So I need 5 contracts. And then I said I need to submit 5 times the number that I'm trying to achieve. So if I need 5 wins, 5 contracts, then I need 25 proposals going out the door. Does that make sense? 1 out of every 5. And so for every 1 win, I need 5 proposals going out the door. Put your own numbers in there as you go forward. These are great conservative numbers. But when I have that number, I'm able to then break it down to the monthly level. I'm able to look at this and say, I can measure myself by saying every month, starting in January, right? Starting in January, I'm going to submit 2 proposals, and don't make any excuses for why you can't do it. Starting in January, I'm doing 2 proposals a month. These proposals could be you prime contracting with the government. These could be 2 proposals where you subcontract under 1 large and 1 small. It could be 1 prime that you do and 1 sub that you're doing somewhere else. Whatever it is, every month, if you measure yourself to get 2 proposals out the door as a sub or a prime, where in that proposal you have at least a 1 FTE win potential, then you will be able to make 25 proposals or have 25 proposals going out the door. And if you have a 20% win rate, you will get $1 million, right? It's not magic at all. It's just numbers. How many proposals need to go out in order to win? But I can guarantee you, if you don't have proposals going out the door, you will not have wins coming in the door. Okay, so let's keep moving on. So you have sales, you have proposals. Before you can have proposals written and going out the door, you must have opportunities in your pipeline. Your pipeline can look however you want it. A spreadsheet, a fancy tool, doesn't matter. But what I say here, a couple of things to pay attention, is that of all the opportunities you put into the pipeline, 1 out of every 2 will go forward into the proposal phase. 1 out of every 2, you will decide to not bid, right? For whatever reason, you will decide, or the government will cancel it. Something will come up. Your teaming partner will say, hey, we're not going after it. But 1 out of every 2 will not go forward. And when I say that, I have a 50% proposal rate is just what I'm saying at the moment. But what that means is 1 out of every 2 opportunities to move forward. If I need to write 25 proposals going out the door, but only 1 out of 2 opportunities in my pipeline will move forward to that stage, I need 2 times the number of proposals going out the door. So I need 50 proposals in my pipeline over the course of a year. Does that make sense? And so when you have those in, one of the things to keep in mind is that they must be slam dunk opportunities. If you don't niche down, you won't know what a slam dunk opportunity is. But if you niche down and say, hey, we do Oracle in the financial arena for the federal government, now you will look for all the possible opportunities out there that are Oracle related. Those opportunities could be flat out prime contracts that you pursue that are clear as day that they're Oracle. They could be a task area within a bigger contract that says we need you to manage the Oracle relational database or whatever, right? Among other IT services. It could be any of that, but your portion of that as a prime or a sub, your portion must be a slam dunk opportunity in your core competency. If it is, then the chances of you being able to write a winning proposal and then win contracts is very high. If you try to write other things like, hey, we do cybersecurity, but you're actually an Oracle firm, then how well are you going to be perceived by the government when they look at everything you've done and it all says Oracle, but you say, hey, give us a cybersecurity contract, right? Compared to a cybersecurity firm who submits to an Oracle contract, won't look that good for Oracle, but you will look really competitive, look really good there. So I'm breaking these numbers down. So I'm telling myself I must have 50 opportunities in my pipeline in order to go after things. And these 50 opportunities, as you mature, by the way, you can begin to consolidate them. I'm just using this at the most conservative levels, most conservative number. So relationships is the next thing, just tracking my time. Okay, so I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit. This other number is really important for me because this is the door that opens up all of the opportunities and proposal successes that you'll have. You want to establish strategic relationships with teaming partners. 4 larges is what I tend to say, and 4 smalls. And the smalls should be 1 from each program area, like I have here, a hub zone, a woman-owned. That way, whatever designation you have access to opportunities that are set aside to service disabled veteran-owned, for example, if that's not you. I say 8 max because that is a very good number of strategic partnerships to have with other teaming partners out there. And if you feel the urgency to bring another in to your pool, then my guiding rule is get rid of one. If you have 8 solids, you would never think to go find another. And so if you think you must bring this other person, this other company in as a strategic partner, oh, hey, we should work with SAIC. Well, that means you're not overly happy with the ones you have. You're not seeing your goals being achieved by working with the 8 you have. So get rid of one and bring the new one in. The other thing is, just really quickly, you're scheduling biweekly meetings. This is what the relationship means. And so your measurement for relationships is having biweekly meetings. Do I have regularly scheduled meetings? As quickly as possible, no later than January, you should have 8 recurring meetings. If you don't, you know that you're not achieving the numbers here for relationships that you need in order to achieve the numbers upstream for opportunities, then proposals, then sales, right? These are the ways you measure. If you know your numbers, you'll know where you're at in the progress towards your goals. And so bi-weekly meetings are the easiest way. If you can't schedule a meeting every 2 weeks with some teaming partner, then there's no relationship there. And you need to, and it'll just tell you to work and find a company that actually wants to work with you, wants to commit to meeting on a regular basis to identify opportunities. And so the last thing I said here is opportunities, identify 6 opportunities per strategic partner for the year, right? So you don't need them all identified in January, but you want to look at each strategic partner and say, hey, how do I identify 6 opportunities with you? And the reason I'm saying 6, follow my numbers, is because if you get 6 from company A or company B and they go into the opportunities, only half of them will move forward. So only 3 out of 6 potentially will move forward from each partner, which will eventually lead to the number I have here, right? 48 opportunities going into the pipeline will lead to 24 proposals going out the door. And so having that number there, having these numbers and understanding it are really important. You begin to shape your strategic relationship by telling them, I'm looking to identify 6 opportunities throughout the year that we can work. This last one here, or the next one, is new outreach calls. So outreach is about making phone calls, reaching out to people. Just schedule it. You're going to do 3 every single day. It'll take you 5-10 minutes. But if you put that measurement in place, you will track it. At any given point, I'm speeding up here because I'm watching the time. At any given point, you must always have 100 people in your list to reach out to until you have those 8 solid strategic relationships. Then you do it as needed.